Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching News Night on DD India, your prime-time destination for news and bespoke analysis. It's good to have you again with us. All right, on the show tonight, we take you to Bengaluru, which is hosting the 2020 Tech Summit. Now, Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the summit on Thursday. World leaders from Australia and Switzerland, among others, who took part in the summit. Plus, news and updates from around the world. All that and much more coming up over the next 1 hour. But first, as always, the headlines. PM Modi discusses bilateral relations with Luxembourg PM Javier Bettel in a virtual conference. PM Modi says there's a lot of potential for increasing economic exchanges between India and Luxembourg. PM Modi virtually inaugurates the 23rd edition of Bengaluru Tech Summit, says Digital India has become a way of life, asserts that India is uniquely positioned to leap ahead in the information era. Security forces thwart a major terror attack in Jammu's Nagrota, neutralize 4 terrorists in an encounter. A large cache of arms and ammunition recovered. Security tightened in Nagrota and Katra. ₹2,000 fine for not wearing a mask in Delhi. Delhi government holds a meeting on the COVID-19 situation. High Court slams the Kejriwal government for its handling of the pandemic. Central government approves a new category for selection and nomination of children of COVID warriors to MBBS and BDS courses. The move honors the work of the COVID warriors. Ahmedabad imposes an indefinite night curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. This after a rise in the coronavirus cases in the city. Book of selected speeches of President Ramnath Kovind released by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. INB Minister Prakash Javadekar says these books will inspire all. And Hafiz Saeed, the mastermind of the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai, has been sentenced to 10 years in 2 terror cases by a court in Pakistan. All right, let me dive straight into our cover story. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday virtually inaugurated the 23rd edition of the Bengaluru Tech Summit. He said Digital India has become a way of life and that India is uniquely positioned to leap ahead in the information era.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday inaugurated Tech Summit in Bengaluru via video conferencing. He cited the example of his government's Swamitva scheme to highlight the benefits of technology. Swamitva scheme is an ambitious scheme to give land titles to millions of people in rural areas. It uses technology such as drone to resolve disputes and empower people. PM said, Digital India has become a way of life, particularly for the poor, marginalized and for those in the government.
We launch Digital India mission 5 years back. Today, I'm glad to say that Digital India is no longer being seen as any regular government initiative. Digital India has become a way of life, particularly for the poor, marginalized, and for those in government.
Prime Minister Modi said his governance model is technology first, through technology, the government has enhanced human dignity. He said technology was the prime reason government schemes such as Ayushman Bharat have changed the lives of people at such a speed and scale. He said technology enables government to provide electricity to all and helps people cross toll booths faster. He said it gave the government confidence to vaccinate large population in a short span of time.
Technology is the prime reason our schemes have gone beyond files and changed lives of the people at such a speed and scale. Today, when we are able to help the poor build their home at an unprecedented scale, speed and transparency, it is thanks to technology.
Prime Minister said that COVID-19 pandemic was a bend in the path but not the end. The amount of tech adoption that would not have happened in a decade happened in just a few months. The resilience of India's tech sector was on display during the pandemic. It came into action and used tech solutions to keep work going on from home and from everywhere else.
We have the best minds as well as the biggest markets. Our local tech solutions have the potential to go global. India is at a sweet spot. It is time for tech solutions that are designed in India but deployed for the world.
Prime Minister Modi said technology was setting the pace for the defense sector to evolve. Earlier, wars were determined by who had better horses and elephants. Now, technology was playing a very important role in global conflicts. From software to drones to UAVs, technology was redefining the defense sector.
Our youth can play a big role in devising robust cyber security solutions. These solutions can effectively vaccinate digital products against cyber attacks and viruses.
Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison were among the world leaders who took part in the summit. This year, the theme of the summit is Next is Now. The summit is deliberating on key challenges emerging in the post-pandemic world, with focus on the impact of prominent technologies and innovations in the domains of information technology and electronics and biotechnology. News Night Desk, DD India.
All right, so we are discussing about the 2020 Bengaluru Tech Summit. And I want to talk to you, the viewers, about Digital India. Now, take a look at these numbers on the screen behind me. This is Digital India in numbers. And these are startling statistics I want to share with you, the viewers. Digital India mission is now 5 years old. And it's 75 crore internet connections are there in the country today as we speak. But over half of it joined only in the last 4 years. Next up, 126 crore Aadhaar cards in the country today, and a direct benefit transfer of 130 crore rupees so far, and more than 2 billion, mark my words, 2 billion UPI transactions only in the month of October. Also, 65 crore ration cards till August this year, and 13 crore beneficiaries of the Ayushman Bharat scheme as well. Moving on to the Jan Dhan bank account, there are 42 crore of those accounts in the country today, and 1.5 lakh crore villages have been linked by the fiber optic cable. Next up is a graphic about Digital India and technology-driven solutions and benefits. Now, the first up is the Prime Minister's catchphrase of technology-first governance model. That means farmers can receive money in just one click. Also, that's it, the farmers receive money in one click. Also, a quick assistance during COVID-19 lockdown. You and I know how that technology helped us all these months of lockdown. Also, the poor can build a home faster now due to technology. Also, people, motorists on the road can cross a toll booth faster because of those fast-tag technologies in play today. Also, most importantly, there is something called the National Digital Health Mission. This has potentially huge consequences for people of the country. Also, the Swamitva scheme is an ambitious scheme to give land titles to millions of people in the rural areas. And last but not the least, let's focus on the policies and priorities. First up, the government has eased the compliance burden on the IT industry as a whole. Focus is also on the future-proof policy frameworks for the country. Also, focus on issues such as data protection, cyber security, data governance framework as well. So, cyber security, and last but not the least, the data governance framework for the entire country. All right, now talking about the Tech Summit in Bengaluru, Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister C.N. Ashwath Narayan says the Tech Summit has received an excellent response and support from the Indian industry. He spoke exclusively to my colleague Aisha Khanam.
Dynamic IT and BT Industries Minister and also the Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka, Mr. Ashwath Narayan. This is very interesting that this is a historic virtual summit that we are witnessing. What changes are you seeing? How is the response to the IT companies? Because this is the biggest mela in the entire Asia, the IT mela. So how has the industry responded?
We got a tremendous response from the industry. There's been excellent participation and support. We are trying to integrate now academia also in a very big way so that the future input or the way we are going to progress, the connect has to be there. The reverse engineering, the reverse connect has to be there.
Now work from home, work from anywhere is the new norm. So what are you looking at, once the industry recovers, once, we are on the new normal?
Our Honorable Prime Minister has pointed out the technology factor will be figured in all possible programs and sectors. So that being the case, that is become a necessity and a need.
How much of this information technology we can take it further to build, to rebuild the structure, the economy in future?
Digital healthcare is the way forward. Wherever it might be, we can address the health requirement or the health concern of the people, for the people of the country.
How can Karnataka become a global brand in terms of taking forward digital India?
So with regard to even all the solutions, the digital economy, or Aadhaar, UPI, health mission, digital health mission, all these products have been developed by Karnataka. Probably further forward, we can develop much more products to facilitate this kind of growth. What is grown here can be extended across the world, and it becomes a way forward.
Connecting with the digital India dream and vision of the Prime Minister, this virtual platform is once again giving wings to dreams of millions of Indians. With cameraman Syed, Aisha Khanam, DD India, Bangalore.
All right, time now for our In Focus segment, in which we are discussing about PM Modi says his governance model is technology first. Right, joining me are two very special guests, Mr. Mohandas Pai. He calls himself a global citizen and a Bengalurian at heart. Mr. Pai is a chairperson of Manipal Global Education and Arvind Capital, a private equity fund. And Mr. Prashant Prakash, chairman, Startup Vision Group. Gentlemen, welcome to News Night. If I can start with you, Mr. Pai, the Tech Summit has become a regular feature in the calendar of the city of Bengaluru. What were the big takeaways for you on day one of the summit?
The big takeaway for us has been Prime Minister's speech first, because the Prime Minister 5 years ago gave a vision, and you must see how remarkably that vision has transformed India.
Right.
Now, if you are a poor Indian and you're receiving benefits, for example, government has transferred 12,50,000 crores to people through DBT over the last 5 years. 12,50,000 crores. Government has said 1,50,000 crores, which is being eaten away by unqualified people. And all these benefits, especially the health benefit, etc., you know, your life has been remade. No country, let me tell you, no country has undergone this transformation. That's point number one. So
Right.
we need to celebrate. Second, this seminar spoke about the future trends in technology, how technology is going to change society in future in the age of artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, 3D printing, and unmanned vehicles, etc., and biotechnology, how technology is going to change human life. Robots are going to come into being, and this is going to dramatically improve our lives and also impact society. And what are the new trends and what India needs to do? And third, I'm sure in the next 2 days, they will discuss about what India needs to do, what is the agenda for action.
Right.
So this is all about next, this is all about the future. And I think it's a fantastic global conclave being held in Bangalore. And you must know, before I sign off, Bangalore has 20 lakh tech people in a population of 1.1 crore. Bangalore this year will export $60 billion of software. Bangalore has more software people than Silicon Valley. It's the largest collection of human talent for software and technology anywhere in the world.
Right. I want to take up, Mr. Prakash, you on that point raised by Mr. Pai there. What is it about Bengaluru that it's become the, the tech hub of India and the region at large? What is it about the city, its people, its industry that makes it what it is today?
Yeah, so two things really make any tech ecosystem anywhere in the world. All the tech ecosystems that have scaled because of two reasons. One, entrepreneurs who are adventurous and audacious in what they want to do, backed by venture capital. And I think Bangalore has been a great magnet for both. We have been able to attract the best talent as entrepreneurs from across. So if you look at our Honorable Prime Minister Modi's vision, the people who are translating that vision into the reality on the ground are startups. And startups need capital. And it is this virtuous cycle of great entrepreneurs coming to Bangalore, and following them are these great venture capitalists who come and fund them and scale these companies. So it is this virtuous cycle that has kicked into Bangalore. And the other big thing is a lot of these companies, as they scale, the people in these companies become future entrepreneurs. So they come out of these companies and create new startups. So it is this cycle that is really playing out really well in Bengaluru. And we have attracted the largest venture capital in the country, close to $20 billion in the last 4 years, which is almost 47% of all the capital deployed in this country in venture capital is deployed in this city and in the state. So it is that really makes a difference.
Indeed, indeed. Mr. Pai, has the COVID-19 pandemic affected the venture capitalists and the entrepreneurial talent in Bengaluru, generally speaking, or across the country for that matter? Or has it incentivized new innovation and innovative technologies on the other hand?
Well, the first quarter from March to June, we had an impact because funding came down and people are very apprehensive what happened. There was fear that many startups will die, but it didn't happen. What happened was a great burst of innovation.
Right.
Most of the startups started innovating, coming out with new models, cut their costs, became more competitive, and reach out to customers. Now funding has come back in the second quarter, July, August, September, and I think this quarter is going to be another great quarter. And the last quarter this year, January, February, March, is going to set records for everywhere from whatever we see. We've seen a huge burst of innovation. We are seeing many companies grow up and raise capital. As the venture capitalists have become slightly cautious in funding companies who have benefited. Because when COVID happened, there were a set of startups who were very digital and they have benefited tremendously. Now they are getting growth capital. We're also seeing high quality startups come who are very innovative with new business models, because all of them they learn the future is going to be digital. Nobody can escape. It's already arrived. And unless they have a fully digital model, fully mobile first, digital first model, they're not going to succeed. So that innovation has really set up a tremendous burst. So COVID has actually become a catalyst for greater innovation and greater funding in this quarter.
Absolutely. Mr. Pai, just a quick follow-up question now. You spoke about digital first, mobile first. PM Modi says his governance model is technology first. Now, in that context, he said in his speech to the Tech Summit this afternoon that India is at a sweet spot and it is time for tech solutions that are designed in India but deployed for the world. So is that the next big idea or challenge for Indian IT industry in particular?
Well, that's the next big challenge. But Prime Minister Modi said that for a very important reason. India has possibly the largest database for anything in the world. In the medical field, we have the largest database for everything. If you have a large database, you can run AI algorithms and machine learning and train machines. You can have robotics. You can have, when 5G comes, you can have IoT all over the place, sensitive devices. You can have autonomous cars, etc. And they build great models. Now, they must take it outside. And many companies, startups are relocating or maybe, sadly, going to Southeast Asia. They're also in the US. You must remember, India and the US are linked together like no other two countries anywhere in the world. About 25-30% of Silicon Valley startups have the back-end engineering in India. And for us in Bangalore, going to San Francisco and talking to them is much easier and much better than going to Delhi. If we go to Delhi, we don't understand the culture there because it's a very different culture. We go to Silicon Valley, the culture that we're used to, technology first, mobile first. So I think the Prime Minister made the point. India is there for a burst of great innovation to go to the globe. What you require is more capital. What you require is more capital. And for that, we must have LIC and the big insurance companies who have a balance sheet of 45 lakh crores, who invest about 6 lakh crores a year, start investing. So Indian startups to go global require more capital, Indian capital. We're getting foreign capital, but we don't want to be a digital colony. We need Indian capital. That is the big challenge.
Absolutely. Mr. Prakash, you are a venture capitalist, so I have to ask you this question. What do you look for in an idea or a proposal or a, an elevator pitch, so to speak, and about the power of disruptive technologies, the power of disruption? In that context, I want to quote what the PM said in his speech. He says, unlike the industrial era, first mover does not matter. The best mover does matter in the information era. He also says, anyone can build a product anytime that disrupts all existing equations of the market. Your thoughts, Mr. Prakash?
Yeah, so I think the first thing venture capitalists look at is the underlying business model that the entrepreneur is going after. Is it fundamentally really changing either some aspect of user behavior or some aspect of market dynamics? So I think one of these is very important. And then the second aspect that VCs look at is what is the capability of the entrepreneur to execute that model? Right. Ideas are easy, right? But execution is where the rubber meets the road. And I think this is what, and finally, I think what they look at is the timing in the market. Some ideas may be just too early and just may not work, right? So you need to look at all these three aspects: the power of the model, the capability of the entrepreneur to execute that model, and is it the right time for that model? And you were asking Dr. Pai about this Indian entrepreneurs building for the rest of the world. Yeah. I think the timing for that is now, because this generation of Indian entrepreneurs have seen global products. They've experienced global products sitting here in India. So now they know what people globally, it's a flat world. And in this flat world, it is easier for Indian entrepreneurs. So there's a big area of opportunity called SaaS, software as a service. And there are already 2 to 3 unicorns in this space, companies that have started in Chennai, Bangalore, in these areas, who have now built billion-dollar companies, not servicing the markets just in India. India is less than 5% of their revenue. 95% of their revenue comes from the rest of the world. So I think this is a new paradigm in exports. You had the first generation of IT, which was championed by the IT services companies such as Infosys and Wipro and some of those. But now you have a reverse revolution where Indian products are being taken to the rest of the world by Indian entrepreneurs. And I think that's a big, big opportunity.
Fair point. Mr. Pa, you spoke about culture, ethic, and you said Bengaluru has more affinity to San Francisco on the US Western Seaboard than, say, Delhi or Mumbai. I want to ask you why. And also, can Bengaluru be the template to replicate elsewhere in the country, specifically in terms of an enabling environment, a policy framework, an ecosystem that's conducive to spawning new entrepreneurs?
Well, let me say this. Bangalore is unique in India because Bangalore is an entirely middle-class town. We don't have business families here. Name the business families, old companies. We don't have them. It's a middle class town. And Bangalore is a city where the most educated, the smartest person always get the greatest respect. Not the person with the biggest bank balance or the biggest wealth. We don't talk about wealth and everything else and admire people. We admire people for their intellect. And that is fantastic. We admire people for the quality of the technology. And that is what creates respect in Bangalore. So if you go to San Francisco, who are respected there? They are billionaires, but it's all pure technology. You admire the technologies, you admire, the techies, as they call them, and the smartest guys, and everybody wants to show that they're smart. But the same similar kind of culture. Because, being a middle-class town, education is highly valued. So that is the difference in culture. Can Bangalore be a template for other cities? Of course it can be a template. But remember one thing, Bangalore is a very welcoming place for every outsider. Unlike maybe other cities in India, which are parochial, which do not welcome the outsider, Bangalore is very, very welcoming. Sadly, of course, only 35% of people speak the Kannada language, which is unfortunate. I think all of us should speak Kannada. I speak Kannada. Prashant speaks Kannada. We love Kannada. That's our state language.
Right.
But, welcomes all outsiders, treats them well, gives them great opportunities, and everybody is at home. So everybody from any part of the country comes at home. You ask any Indian where they like to relocate from their original town, they'll say Bangalore. It's very unique.
Indeed. Mr. Pai, our viewers in Mumbai and Delhi might not take kindly to what you said about Bengaluru having the smartest people. But that aside, Mr. Prakash, one last time you on the discussion. Now, there are some concerns and expectations for the Indian industry as well. Now, for instance, the PM spoke about how the government has eased the compliance burden on the IT industry. He spoke about data protection, cyber security, and a future-proof policy scheme of framework. So, your last thoughts on your expectations from the industry perspective.
So from the industry, I think we need to prepare ourselves to spawn the next generation of startups from the city.
Okay.
And I think there are two big areas that we can focus on. And the Karnataka government always has been a leader and visionary. And in both these areas, they have set in motion. So one of them is the AI revolution that's happening and impacting every aspect of our lives, whether it's healthcare, transportation, agriculture, all these areas. So the Karnataka government has just launched, and Mr. Mohandas Pai has also been behind this, a AI art park, a first of its kind art research and innovation park set up along with IISc in Bengaluru, along with the Karnataka government. So this is going to create not only thousands of new AI trained engineers, but world leading AI startups from the city. The second big area is the aerospace and spacecraft areas. I think you've seen a lot of liberalization in terms of the aerospace policy and what participation can happen from ISRO with the private sector. I think this is again a tremendous opportunity for the state to become an aerospace hub.
Right, we have a fascinating conversation going here, but unfortunately I'm completely run out of time. I have to stop here. I want to thank both my guests, Mr. Pai and Mr. Prakash, for making time for us on Newsnight. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now, and talking about the Tech Summit, earlier I spoke to another famous Bengalurian, Ms. Kiran Mojumdar-Shaw. She is a founder and chairperson of Biocon, a biotechnology company based in Bengaluru. And I began by asking her about the big takeaways from PM Modi's address to the Tech Summit. Listen in.
So thank you very much for having me on your show. And let me start by saying that our Prime Minister has always backed technology in a big way.
Right.
I think he has clearly seen the transformational power of technology. He is very, very driven by the fact that digital technologies is the way to drive non-linear growth in our country. And he specifically alluded to the unified payment interface as being one of the most innovative platforms in the world for democratizing digital payment, which he mentioned has surpassed anyone's expectations in the number of transactions that were done last month, which he mentioned was about 2 billion transactions. Secondly, he also was very excited by the fact that we have a digital health mission, which can actually transform lives and which can actually provide access to healthcare for all. And I think these are the kind of initiatives which he believes will transform our country. Education is another area which he talked about in terms of using digital technologies. And he also mentioned that, we are today in a virtual world and digital technologies are about the future. And he mentioned that when we talk about next is now, the digital world has already arrived, whether we like it or not. COVID has actually thrown us into the digital world, and we have to swim as fast as we can to take advantage of what we have developed over time. I think the good news is that we have the understanding, the talent, and the capabilities to really leverage digital technologies at mass scale. He also mentioned that this is an opportunity for young people through hackathons to address some of the biggest problems that we are facing. And he believes that these kind of hackathons actually will unleash a very idea-driven, innovation-driven, solution-driven attitude for the startup economy. So I think all in all, I think our Prime Minister is one man who knows what technology is about. And I think what he said was very inspiring, very visionary. And I think, we are all, people of the technology world, and we certainly believe that this is the future for the country and we must invest in technology in a big way.
Now, Prime Minister Modi has also said that technology gave his government confidence that India will be able to vaccinate its large population in a short period of time. So we asked Ms. Shaw about how technology can help in the fight against COVID-19 or similar pandemics, and this is what she had to say.
So as you know, the COVID pandemic has actually unleashed a huge potential that our country has in biotechnology. Whether it's diagnostics, where we actually found a large number of companies rising to the challenge and developing at scale a large number of diagnostic kits and very novel diagnostic kits at that, or whether it was developing vaccines, which obviously are the need of the day, or now whether it is about deployment of vaccines by creating very innovative, digitally linked supply chains. I think those are the kind of opportunities that India has to deploy vaccines at large scale. And I think we have a unique opportunity in the world to do this in a very high-tech way. Because remember, we're going to have multiple vaccines coming out at different times with different profiles.
Right.
We are just having to, obviously all nations will have to just vaccinate people as and when they get these vaccines.
Sure.
It's very important for us to know who got vaccinated with which vaccine. And that can only be done with a digital tag. We have the most powerful digital tag, which is the Aadhaar number. And if we can use the Aadhaar number to vaccinate our population, then we would have a treasure trove of information as information on vaccines comes out over time. Because, these are very strange times where there are new vaccines like the mRNA vaccines, there are conventional vaccines like the adenovirus vaccines. There are some vaccines which need 2 doses a month apart. There are some vaccines which can be given once. There are some vaccines which need adjuvants. So there are multiple combinations that we need to track when we vaccinate our populations. How are you going to do that without digital technology? So we need to create a digital database. We need to make sure that we know exactly who was vaccinated with which vaccine, so that as data comes out, if one vaccine has only a durability response of 9 months, whereas another vaccine has a durability of response of 2 years, then you know which population has to be vaccinated again. So I think these are very important opportunities for India.
Absolutely.
Without technology, we will not be able to do justice.
Absolutely. And
Ms. Shaw, importantly, I would also say that beyond vaccination, this is now a time for pandemic preparedness. right? We cannot afford to be complacent saying that, okay, now that we've got rid of COVID-19, that nothing else will now happen for a long time. I think we should be in a constant state of pandemic preparedness, which will require surveillance. Okay, so there needs to be viral surveillance, there needs to be testing, which allows us to be very, very, vigilant about any outbreak. And there are enormous opportunities for companies to innovate in terms of rapid testing and developing very accurate tests so that we are constantly in a state of surveillance.
Now, technology offers solutions but poses challenges too. Take a listen to what Ms. Kiran Majumdar-Shaw has to say about industry's expectations in terms of policy.
So, if you look at it, the entire optics is always focused on the IT sector, which is relatively unregulated sector when you compare it to a sector like ours. Biotech is an over-regulated sector. That's where we need help. I think if the IT sector is being given a lot of regulatory ease of functioning, I think we need to be given, that kind of attention to make us succeed. I think right now we are overburdened with far too many regulations, which actually slows up the time to market for all our companies. We also need to make sure that we are incentivized to invest in R&D, because our businesses are very R&D intensive and capital intensive. So I really would like the government to reinstate the 150% weighted tax deduction on R&D expenses, which will actually, incentivize companies to basically reinvest in R&D in an incremental way. I think that is absolutely the need of the hour. We cannot hope to grow this sector without innovation, without investing in research. And therefore, I really hope the government sees merit in reinstating that particular policy, which actually had a sunset clause only on 30th April 2020. I really think they ought to reinstate it and extend that incentive, the R&D incentive.
Sure.
Today, I think our sector needs as much help as it can in driving R&D and innovation. Whether it's startup companies, whether it's SMEs, or whether it's large industry. I think the PLI scheme is certainly welcome. Manufacturing, but I think we must understand that even manufacturing needs to start with R&D.
Right, that was all the news about the 2020 Bengaluru Tech Summit. Let's get you some more news from across the country now. Security forces thwarted a major terror attack in Jammu's Nagrota. 4 terrorists were neutralized in the encounter. A large cache of arms and ammunition were recovered from them. Security has been tightened in Nagrota and Katra.
आज सुबह 5 बजे जब चेकिंग चल रही थी तो एक ट्रक को रोका गया और जब ड्राइवर को उतारा गया तो वो वहां से फरार हो गया। ऐसा लगता है कि ये जो आतंकवादी मारे गए हैं ये किसी बड़े मंसूबे को अंजाम देने के लिए इन्फिल्ट्रेट हुए थे।
4 Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists were neutralized in an encounter with security forces in Jammu's Nagrota on Thursday. Jammu and Kashmir police and CRPF had received specific input about the movement of terrorists from Samba sector towards Nagrota toll plaza. The truck in which they were hiding was stopped for a routine check. Terrorists fired on the security forces and lobbed grenades. Reinforcements were rushed and army also joined the encounter. Later, all the terrorists were eliminated.
एनकाउंटर तकरीबन 3 घंटे तक चला। 2 पुलिस के कांस्टेबल्स हमारे जख्मी हुए हैं जो अभी आउट ऑफ डेंजर हैं। एनकाउंटर के दौरान 4 आतंकवादी मारे गए। इनकी शिनाख्त अभी नहीं हो पाई है।
11 AK assault rifles, 3 pistols, 29 hand grenades and other devices were recovered from the truck which was ferrying rice.
इन 4 आतंकवादियों से बहुत भारी मात्रा में असला बारूद बरामद हुआ है, जिसमें 11 AK-47 राइफल, 3 पिस्टल, 29 ग्रेनेड। ये ग्रेनेड वो हैं जो हम पे फायर किए गए, उसके अलावा जो बचे हुए थे वो हैं। 6 UBGL ग्रेनेड्स, मोबाइल फोन्स, कंपास और अन्य कई सारे डिवाइसेस और पिट्ठू बैग्स, पोचेज और भारी मात्रा में एम्युनिशन बरामद हुआ।
Driver of the truck fled from the scene. 2 security personnel also sustained injuries in the encounter and their condition is stable. The security forces are trying to ascertain the identity of the terrorists who could be Pakistani nationals. Pinpoint intelligence inputs played a major part in inflicting the damage and nipping in the bud the nefarious designs of the terror masterminds. With inputs from Ramesh Raina in Jammu, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Right, moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a bilateral summit with Javier Bettel, Prime Minister of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, in the virtual format. The two Prime Ministers exchanged views on strengthening India-Luxembourg relationship in the post-COVID world, especially in the areas of financial technology, green financing, space applications, digital innovations and startups as well. They welcomed the conclusion of various agreements between the two governments, including those between the financial market regulators, stock exchanges and innovation agencies.
आज जब विश्व कोविड-19 पैंडेमिक की आर्थिक और स्वास्थ्य चुनौतियों से जूझ रहा है, भारत लक्जमबर्ग पार्टनरशिप दोनों देशों के साथ साथ दोनों क्षेत्रों की रिकवरी के लिए उपयोगी हो सकती है। डेमोक्रेसी, रूल ऑफ लॉ और फ्रीडम जैसे साझा आदर्श हमारे संबंधों और आपसी सहयोग को मजबूती देते हैं। भारत और लक्जमबर्ग के बीच आर्थिक आदान प्रदान बढ़ाने का बहुत पोटेंशियल है।
The two Prime Ministers also agreed to strengthen cooperation on realizing effective multilateralism and combating global challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic, terrorism and climate change. Now, Prime Minister Bettel also invited PM Modi to visit Luxembourg at his earliest convenience.
The relations between both countries, as you said, are excellent. We have an Indian community growing in Luxembourg with over 60% the last years. As you said, I will be welcome also the agreement on the area of space, which has to be signed in the margin of this summit, with the successful launch of ISRO and the PSLV C49. Other agreements were signed in the area of finance, and not only the stock exchange, and between also our regulators, which is very important, which provide a sound basis from which to further explore common opportunities.
In other news, PM Narendra Modi and the Prime Minister of Bhutan, Lyocheng Dr. Lote Tshering, will virtually launch RuPay Card Phase 2 in Bhutan on Friday. The Phase 2 will now allow Bhutanese cardholders to access RuPay network in India. PM Modi and the Bhutanese Premier had jointly launched Phase 1 of the project during the state visit of Prime Minister to Bhutan in August last year. The implementation of Phase 1 of RuPay cards in Bhutan has enabled visitors from India to access ATMs and point-of-sale terminals across Bhutan. The Ministry of Home Affairs has ramped up Delhi's medical infrastructure due to COVID-19 surge. The ministry has decided to convert 500 isolation beds to beds with oxygen facility at COVID care center at Chhatarpur. Beds to be ready by the weekend. All 75 doctors and 251 paramedics from CAPF have reported for duty at Chhatarpur and Shakur Basti COVID Care Centre. The Delhi government has asked to refer patients needing critical care to these facilities. Following Home Minister's directive, about 150 ICU beds added in the last 3 days alone in Delhi. Also, the current capacity of 3,652 ICU beds will be further ramped up. Train coaches with 800 beds at Shakur Basti railway station to become functional. Doctors and paramedics from CAPF to man these coaches. 10 multidisciplinary teams of MHA set up to visit more than 100 private hospitals in Delhi for assessing bed utilization and testing capacity and to identify extra ICU beds have also submitted their reports. After Ministers' review meeting on Delhi's COVID situation, more than 28,000 RT-PCR tests were conducted on Wednesday. The capacity of RT-PCR tests to be ramped up to 60,000 per day by the end of November. The Home Ministry has asked Haryana and UP governments to hold survey of private hospitals in their NCR districts on the lines of Delhi. Time now for all the news related to the COVID-19 pandemic in India in our COVID Wrap segment.
Delhi is once again facing a spike in COVID cases. 7,486 cases have been registered in the last 24 hours and 131 deaths have been reported. Total cases have crossed 5 lakhs, while the death toll stands at 7,943. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal called an all-party meet to discuss the COVID challenge. BJP, Congress as well as other parties participated in the meeting. After the deliberations, BJP accused the Delhi government of failing on the COVID front because of its casual attitude.
125 करोड़ रुपया तो आपने पिछले 4 महीने के अंदर विज्ञापन पर खर्च कर दिए। दिल्ली सरकार पूरी तरह से विफल साबित हुई है।
The Delhi High Court also severely criticized the Delhi government for its flip-flop on the cap on the number of wedding attendees allowed in the wake of a fresh wave of the COVID-19 pandemic sweeping the city. The court said, "You saw from November 1st which way the wind was blowing, but you turned turtle now because we asked you some questions. The bell should have rung loud and clear when the numbers were spiraling. Why did you not wake up when you saw the situation was deteriorating? Why did we have to shake you out of your slumber on November 11th? What did you do from November 1st till November 11th? Why did you wait 18 days till November 18 to take a decision? Do you know how many lives were lost during this period? Can you explain it to those who lost their near and dear ones?" After this, the Delhi government announced the decision to increase the penalty for not wearing a mask to Rs 2,000 from the earlier 500. The union government is also doing all it can to help tide over the crisis in Delhi. A high-level team will tour Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat and Manipur to assess the situation. The team will work along the local authorities on tracing, testing, prevention and clinical management of the cases. In some good news for COVID warriors, Union Minister for Health and Family Welfare Dr. Harshvardhan has announced that 5 seats in medical colleges will be reserved for their children. The reservation will be for 2020-21 session. COVID warriors have been defined as those working at the ground level, be they Asha and Anganwadi workers or nurses and doctors. The selection will be based on merit. The union government has also decided to honor those who have sacrificed their lives in the line of duty.
और हमने इसके संदर्भ में अपने मंत्रालय में चिंतन करके इस साल से एक निर्णय लिया है कि जो मेडिकल कॉलेजेस में MBBS की सीट्स होती हैं उसमें जो एक नेशनल कोटा होता है अलग अलग कैटेगरीज़ का, उसमें 5 सीट्स कोविड वॉरियर्स के बच्चों को ऑब्वियसली नीट को वो क्वालिफाई करेंगे, लेकिन उनके लिए एक्सक्लूसिवली रिजर्व की जाएंगी.
Talking of the latest All India data, in the last 24 hours, 45,576 persons were found to be infected with COVID. During the same period, India has registered 48,493 new recoveries, ensuring a net reduction of 2,917 cases from the active caseload. The new recoveries continue to overtake the daily new cases continuously since the past 47 days. India's active caseload has fallen below the 5% mark. India's present active caseload of 4,43,303 patients consists of just 4.95% of the total positive cases. New recoveries outnumbering the daily new cases every 24-hour cycle has also improved the recovery rate to 93.58%. The impact of corona is being felt by those performing Chhath Puja also. Delhi has banned performing puja in public places. Maharashtra, Odisha and Uttarakhand have also followed suit. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And talking about the pandemic, news about COVID-19 vaccines achieving intended targets in the US and Europe have lifted the sagging spirits of people across the globe. but the fight against COVID-19 is not over yet. The vaccines, as and when they receive authorization, will have to be administered to the vast populations before everyone can heave a sigh of relief. With vaccine manufacturers signaling that their task might be over soon, the baton will be transferred to the logistics team to finish the remaining job.
As race for approval for COVID vaccines gathers pace across the globe, the nations have started working on the vaccine distribution plans. In the United States, the COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna could be ready for US authorization and distribution within weeks, setting the stage for inoculation to begin as soon as this year. The US states and territories are prepared to begin distributing the vaccines within 24 hours of receiving regulatory authorization, and the authorities insist that complex cold storage requirements will not be an impediment to all Americans being able to access the vaccines.
With over 1,000 people perishing per day, our mission at Operation Warp Speed is about saving lives. Every hour, every day matters, and so we're going to work to try to minimize that, any type of delay there.
Around 40 million doses of the two vaccines, both of which require 2 shots about 4 weeks apart, will be available by the end of 2020. Authorities are also urging people in the United States to sign up for clinical trials to have the possibility of quicker access to the vaccine. Much of the actual vaccine distribution will be overseen by a team that will be put in place by President-elect Joe Biden, who is set to take office on January 20th. However, President-elect Joe Biden on Wednesday warned the Trump administration's failure to recognize his election victory could delay the plans.
One of the problems that we're having now is the failure of the administration to recognize. The law says that the General Services Administration has a person who recognizes who the winner is. And we've been unable to get access to the kinds of things we need to know about the depth of the stockpiles. We know there's not much at all. And there's a whole lot of things that are we just don't have available to us, which unless it's made available soon, we're going to be behind by weeks or months being able to put together the whole initiative relating to the biggest promise we have, with 2 drug companies coming along and finding 95% effectiveness, efficiency in the vaccines, which is an enormous promise.
Across the Pacific, a potential COVID-19 vaccine developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University has produced a strong immune response in older adults, giving hope that it may protect some of the most vulnerable to the disease. Unlike the Pfizer and Moderna shots, both of which use the new technology known as messenger RNA, the AstraZeneca experimental shot is a viral vector vaccine made from a weakened version of a common cold virus found in chimpanzees. Even as vaccines are yet to win approval, agencies and nations across the globe are not waiting for a green light to activate their freight plans. They are already fine-tuning their logistical requirements to transport the vaccine to their respective nations. Air France-KLM is among airlines gearing up for the challenge of transporting millions of doses of temperature-sensitive vaccines in midst of a travel slump. The COVID-19 airlift is being planned amid a partial shutdown of global air travel. Airlines have warned that travel curbs could hamper their effort, since around 45% of global cargo typically travels in the passenger plane holds. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar released The Republican Ethic Volume 3 on Thursday. The 2 books are a compilation of speeches delivered by President Ramnath Kovind in his 3rd year in office.
The Republican Ethic and Loktantra Ke Swar, 2 important books representing the collection of President Ramnath Kovind's speeches during the 3rd year of his presidency. Union Ministers Prakash Javadekar and Rajnath Singh unveiled the new versions of both the books and presented the first copy to the President. Defence Minister said it was a moment of pride to release the book as the speeches convey the moral and spiritual values.
गरीबों की सेवा के प्रति वो बहुत ही समर्पित रहे हैं, विनम्रता, शालीनता। जब कभी वो भाषण करते हैं तो स्वाभाविक रूप से उनके भाषणों में भगवान बुद्ध की चर्चा होती है, कबीर की चर्चा होती है, महात्मा गांधी की चर्चा होती है। बाबा साहब भीमराव अंबेडकर की, पंडित दीनदयाल जी उपाध्याय की, इन सब सारे लोगों की के संबंध में कुछ न कुछ उनकी उक्तियां, कुछ न कुछ उनके कथन, इसका उल्लेख राष्ट्रपति महोदय अपने भाषणों में बराबर करते रहते हैं। समाज के शोषित, दलित, पिछड़े ऐसे जो लोग हैं उनके जीवन स्तर को कैसे ऊपर उठाया जाए, इसके बारे में भी समय समय पर उन्होंने चर्चा की है।
Prakash Javadekar said that these books instill a sense of pride and confidence in the countrymen.
तो उसमें सारगर्भित विचार है, उसमें एक देश का आत्मविश्वास झलकता है और मैं मानता हूं कि ऐसी किताबें ये निश्चित रूप से सबको एक तरह से प्रेरणा देती है, संदर्भ देती है, भारत के आशय को स्पष्ट करते हैं। ऐसे में इस तरह का एक नेतृत्व की श्रृंखला भारत को मिली है, इसका हमें सबको गर्व है।
INB Secretary Amit Khare expressed gratitude to all.
रक्षा मंत्री माननीय श्री राजनाथ सिंह का अपनी ओर से, अपने मंत्रालय की ओर से हार्दिक आभार और धन्यवाद व्यक्त करना चाहूँगा कि आपने माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदय की इन पुस्तकों का विमोचन किया और विशेष रूप से राष्ट्रपति महोदय की जीवनी और व्यक्तित्व से जुड़े हुए अनेकों अनेक संस्मरण आपने हमको बताए। माननीय श्री प्रकाश जावड़ेकर जी जो हमारे मंत्रालय के माननीय मंत्री हैं, इनकी विशेष निगाह हर गतिविधि पे रहती है और ये भी जो पुस्तकें प्रकाशित हुई हैं इनमें विशेष रूप से इन्होंने देखा है कि एक अच्छा संकलन सामने आए और जो देश के नौजवानों को आगे बढ़ने के लिए प्रेरित करता रहे।
President Kovind's selected speeches are being published in the third volume of the Republican Ethic and Loktantra ke Swar by the Publication Division under the Ministry of INB. With input from Sudhir Yadav, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And that's a wrap. News continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. But don't forget, it's a simple task. Just wear a mask like I have here. Join DD India's Mask Up campaign to beat COVID-19. Thanks for watching. Bye.